Okay, so this is the second part of what I wanted to talk about, the issues that I was having with teaching 5th and 6th graders in elementary school, particularly 5th graders. If you didn't see the first part of my video, the first part was talking about phonics and how they were, even doing phonics week after week after week, they were still having problems with writing certain letters correctly. They were still having problems distinguishing sounds and pronunciations. The second issue I wanted to talk about was pretty much the second part of class. And when I first came to the school, I was told that we basically do phonics with one textbook, and then we move to English, general English using another textbook. And so if you teach English at the elementary school level in Japan, you might be familiar with this book called Eigo Note. And there's two levels. One, I believe, is meant for 5th grade, and level 2 is supposed to be for the 6th grade. And I don't have a problem with the book itself. But here's the issue that I came across recently. Just yesterday, we had finished the book the week before. We did everything in the book the week before, and yesterday I wanted to do kind of a review lesson, but I wanted to just make up my own game and have some of the answers based on things we learned in the book. And the game itself was fine. The issue was explaining it. I've explained this game in the past to my other schools, and it's a little bit complicated, which is why I only teach it to 5th and 6th graders, but they pick it up. They pick it up through simple explanation and through demonstration, and they get it. Basically, long story short, I tried to explain the game to them, and they did not get it. And, every other class that I've tried to explain it to got it. Even the other 5th grade class that I taught got it, but this class did not get it when I was explaining it to them. And it led me to wonder, and is it because this is the first time that I've taught something or that I've tried to explain something to them outside of this book? And I'm going to explain this book. Eigo Note, it's a good book in itself. It's based on oral communication, which is what I like, because that is pretty much the point of the JET program, is to improve oral communication, because that's the problem that Japanese people are having with English, is that most of their English education is based on reading and writing, but there's hardly any speaking. And so the reason I'm here is to help them with oral communication. So what I like about this book is that the activities in it are based on oral communication. The other thing about this book is that it's based on team teaching. And if you're familiar with team teaching, and the description is pretty self-explanatory, it involves having the homeroom teacher or the Japanese teacher of English working with the ALT, which would be me, as a team to teach the students a new expression or some vocabulary through maybe like a sample conversation. I have done team teaching before, not using this book, but I've done team teaching in general, and it works very well. The problem is getting team teaching to happen in the first place. And here's the issue, is that in order for team teaching to work, there has to be close to equal involvement between both teachers, between the homeroom teacher and the ALT, because that's what a team is. There has to be pretty much an equal amount of effort. But the homeroom teachers in elementary school cannot put in that effort because they're too busy. there's hardly any time for them to carefully look over the lesson and to understand what it is we're doing. And also, like, if we're supposed to have a conversation, they don't have time to memorize the conversation we're supposed to be doing. And so that's the problem. I can't do team teaching if the homeroom teacher isn't equipped with what they need to communicate with me. And because of that, it makes using this book difficult. This book is not effective as it should be because I can't do the team teaching element that's required to make it effective. And so basically, without proper team teaching, to do everything in this book, yeah, we're doing the activities, but we're doing just enough. The focus has become, it's become focused on finishing the book instead of actually making sure that they understand everything that's in the book effectively. So, we might learn an expression like, do you have, what would you like, what do you want? But through the activities in this book, we can't practice it enough for some of the kids to remember it. And because, there's only 45 minutes in the time period, and when we have to do phonics for the first 15, 20 minutes, we only have about, 20, 25 minutes to go through this book. And so that's the problem. And when we do this book week after week after week, once I finally get time to teach them something outside of the book, they don't get it. They can do everything in the book, but they have a hard time doing anything outside of it, which basically it almost defeats the whole purpose of having the class in the first place, because they should be able to communicate. They should be able to, even if they can't talk back to me, they should be able to understand what I'm saying to them. Like I said, I've, given explicit instructions to all of my other classes. Very careful, very simple explanations, and they seem to understand it. They don't use this book. But this particular school, we use this book every week. And some of the lessons, the lessons and activities, I personally hate them. I personally hate doing them. So, that's the difficulty I've been having. If you have any suggestions for me on what I can do, because actually what I can do is very limited, because it's hard to explain, but I don't have a lot of control. If I could change the entire system, I would. But because I'm only here for a year, it would be near impossible for me to just try to overhaul just get rid of the entire system, to try to convince them not to use these books anymore. I can't do it. So if you have any suggestions on how I can use this book more effectively without team teaching, that would be good. If you have any thoughts, ideas, if you maybe are having the same experience, let me know. And so yeah, that's it. That's what's been bothering me for a couple of months about this particular school, is that I feel like the 5th and 6th graders, just by having textbooks, I feel like the 5th and 6th graders it's almost like they're being prepared for their doom early. Not because of the book itself, but because, maybe it is because of the book itself. I feel like if we could just put away this book and have them look at me instead of looking at the book, we can have proper communication.